Hello and welcome to part 2 of episode 2 of the Foster Collection series. Every great musical tradition has its defining personalities, and for the English slide trumpet, the family of the Harpers exerted the greatest influence over the instrument. Indeed, it is almost impossible to separate the history of the English slide trumpet than to look at the careers of Thomas Harper Sr. and his son Thomas Harper Jr. For much of the 19th century, they established the standards by which British trumpet playing was judged. They performed with the country's leading orchestras. They taught generations of musicians, advised instrument makers, they published influential trumpet methods, and they championed an approach to trumpet playing that was uniquely British. Thomas Harper was born in 1786, at a time when the natural trumpet still reigned supreme. His career coincided with one of the most significant periods of change in brass instrument history. During his lifetime, the trumpet evolved from a purely natural instrument into one capable of chromatic performance, and Harper stood right at the very centre of all that transformation. Harper served as principal trumpet at many important venues, at the King's Theatre and the Theatre Royal, at the Covent Garden, and also performed at many state occasions. He was also appointed trumpet professor at the Royal Academy of Music not long after its foundation in 1822. At the Academy, he would train many of the musicians who would go on to be the leading players in Britain's orchestras and military bands. Harper was not merely an exceptional performer, he was one of the first truly great pedagogues of the trumpet. During the 1830s, Harper published his celebrated Instructions for the Trumpet. Although modest in appearance, this volume remains one of the most important primary resources for understanding 19th century British trumpet playing. The tutor does far more than provide technical exercises. It discusses tone production, articulation, breathing, orchestral style, military signals, the use of crooks, and perhaps most importantly, the correct use of the English slide trumpet. Many of the principles described by Harper in his method remain remarkably relevant today. His insistence upon purity of tone, elegant phrasing, and musical expression transcends the instrument for which the method was written. The tutor also reminds us that 19th century trumpet players were expected to be rather complete musicians, not merely technicians of the trumpet. Following his father's death in 1853, responsibility for the English trumpet tradition and the traditions formed for the English slide trumpet fell to Thomas Harper Jr. Like his father before him, Thomas Harper Jr. became one of the foremost orchestral trumpet players in Britain. Yet unlike his father, his new orchestral career was met with several other challenges. By the second half of the 19th century, valve trumpets and valve cornets had become increasingly sophisticated. Many musicians viewed the slide trumpet as old-fashioned. However, Harper Jr. disagreed. He believed that the slide trumpet possessed qualities of brilliance, clarity, and nobility that valve instruments were still yet to achieve. Rather than abandoning the slide trumpet, Harper Jr. became its strongest advocate. Perhaps Harper Jr.'s greatest legacy was his publication Harper's School for the Trumpet, which was published around the 1870s. Today it represents one of the final major tutors devoted specifically to the English slide trumpet. Its importance cannot be overstated. Harper discusses the construction of the instrument, the operation of the slide, tone production, orchestral style, and practical musicianship. He also offers fascinating observations comparing the slide trumpet with the increasingly fashionable cornet. One particularly valuable aspect of his book is its historical awareness. Harper recognised that the English slide trumpet represented a tradition that was already starting to disappear. His writings helped to preserve all this knowledge which otherwise we may have lost forever. If we take a closer look at the instrument I'm holding here, this is an English slide trumpet from around 1880, and it's made by Fontaine-Besson. And this is quite a late instrument for the English slide trumpet. And what's particularly interesting about this instrument is a few things. One being, this instrument was technically never really sold anywhere. Obviously it was created for sale. However, it got exported to a music store in Sydney around the time of its making in the 1880s. And whoever ordered it decided not to purchase it at that time, and it sat in the music store for well over 100 years. Really, it must have been 140 years, and the music store stayed in the Smith family that entire time, and eventually the instrument was donated to me. So I'm really the first owner of this instrument, and it really is in amazing, remarkable condition because it's obviously not been played too much during its lifespan. And it's got an original mouthpiece, which differs probably a little from the mouthpieces they were using in the 1830s and 1840s, but it's quite deep, it's quite a bucket shape and quite long with quite a round, thick shank. And the instrument itself is of course pitched in F, so it's relatively short for a natural looking style instrument, and we add each key by adding additional crooks. So we've got a crook there to go a whole tone and a crook there to go a half tone, and so in that way we can go down into all the keys. So from F we can get right down to C, and in some cases B flat. And of course no slide trumpet is complete without, of course, the slide. This slide mechanism is like one of the later ones where it doesn't actually possess a clock spring. So the clock springs, some had one, some had two, and the purpose of the clock springs, of course, was to act as a recoil system for the slide. So they'd have the spring wound up inside the clock spring with a piece of cord which would attach to the inside of the slide, which is why we've got this inner tube down the middle. And as you retracted the slide, would place tension on the spring, and the spring would bring, after you finish playing the note with the slide, the spring brought the trumpet back to its original position very quickly, helping to make the instrument a little bit more agile and a little bit more legato in finding your positions. This one's a later one. We saw the clock spring disappear over time, and it would simply have had a gut cord or maybe some kind of early rubber cord going down the centerpiece, still acting as that recoil mechanism. But it's a lovely thing. I'm very glad I have it. You can still see it retains its ball for decoration and just homage to earlier trumpets. And of course in the 19th century we always had lovely decorative engraving and designs, which really adds to the aesthetics and the enjoyment of owning an English slide trumpet. Like all trumpets and instruments in the brass family over the years, of course, there were many Decades went by and instruments evolved and improved over time. That was true with the English slide trumpet as well. As I said, this is a later instrument in the 1880s. It was probably as the instrument was going out of fashion fairly rapidly. However, if we look at some of the earlier instruments from where they were first created, the first probably big step came with the invention of the Thomas Harper new improved model by Kohler, and already on that you'd see the improvement made in the clock springs and in the notched tuning mechanism on the instrument. And now in this later instrument, even later technology, if you look at the curve here, that's so that there can be integrated a tuning slide. So instead of using the traditional bits which would have been added before the mouthpiece to the crooks, they actually added that slide with a little bend in it, so we could add a tuning slide, which was really the last bit of technology added to these. The instruments really went out of fashion altogether in the first decade of the 20th century. I've seen a catalogue from 1912 from Hawks & Son, which still lists one for sale. It calls it an oratorio trumpet or a slide trumpet. But after that, I really think they did go out of production. And it wasn't until a whole generation went past, no one was playing them. And then in the 1960s and 70s, Crispy and Still Perkins started playing them. So really the instrument didn't disappear for too long. And now we see people regularly playing them, particularly in the period instrument ensembles in England playing Mendelssohn and the likes. It's very popular to bring out the English slide trumpets to replicate the original sound of these remarkable instruments. If you've enjoyed this video, please remember to like and subscribe, share with your friends, and we'll see you back for episode 3 soon.